Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. This is my beautiful baby boy Arrow, and today we are going to be talking about his birth. Okay, so I'm going to try and get this done as fast as I possibly can, although I can already tell it's probably going to be a long video based on everything that I wrote down, and hopefully I don't get too emotional talking about it. So, starting September 3rd, 2019, I had an appointment with my midwife in which I got a membrane sweep. This was probably around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And right after I left the appointment, I didn't really feel crampy, didn't really feel anything, honestly, until around 6:30 or 7 p.m. when I actually got my very obvious, strong first contraction. I had gotten contractions before, but they were like Braxton Hicks contractions. You can tell that they're like, ooh, you know, tight on your stomach, but not like painful. But that contraction that I got around 6:30 or 7 in the afternoon was very obviously a labor contraction. It was painful, it was really hard, it was long, and then it continued from there I think it started actually really close, like maybe every 10 minutes, maybe less than that. So my contractions stayed consistent right from the beginning, and within an hour they were just about 5 minutes apart. So they stayed consistent and got closer together pretty quickly. My mom got here probably around 8 or 9 p.m. She was going to be staying with my oldest son while we went to the hospital, and by the time she got here, my contractions were just about 3 minutes apart. And so it was progressing pretty quickly, and just very shortly after that, I needed to go into the hospital because I was in a lot of pain. The time that she was here, she was pressing my back and really trying to help me out, but I realized that it was time to go when she was pushing as hard as she could, and her poor little hands were just hurting because I just kept telling her to push harder and she couldn't, and I realized I needed more help than that. So we got everything together, packed up, got to the hospital probably around midnight. I don't remember honestly the exact time, but it was probably around midnight. I had been in contact with my midwife the whole time since I started labor, and she was texting with me back and forth and making sure that I was breathing and that I was okay, and just seeing when we were heading to the hospital. By the time we got there, she was already there. We didn't even have to go into triage at all. We just got in and went right into a room. And almost right away I got checked and I was already at 6 centimeters dilated. So obviously things were progressing well. So that was exciting. Even though I was progressing well, by the time that I was there and admitted and, you know, in the situation, my pain was so strong that I wanted once again to like try and not have an epidural, but I couldn't. I'm not one of those women that can withstand the pain. I gotta just admit that I couldn't. My back was hurting so bad and I was so tired, and I couldn't change positions because once I found a position that was semi-okay, then I had to like stick there, and like even in between contractions, even though I was getting a rest and I wasn't in pain like in my last labor, when I had pain in my tailbone that was just so excruciating. This time thankfully I didn't have that, so I was having some rest, but even then I felt like it's labor, I was just in so much pain. So so I did ask for an epidural in the meantime while we waited for the what's it called? Anesthesiologist. Jeez, I don't know, I couldn't think of that word. While we were waiting for the anesthesiologist, I was standing on the bed kind of in a squatting position. My water broke. My midwife told me that the contractions would probably get more painful starting then, so of course that scared me, although she was just trying to prepare me for it, which is great. I'm grateful for that because they did get worse. There was like 2 contractions, I think, immediately after my water broke that weren't that bad, and I was like, oh, this is fine. And then they got like a lot worse. The anesthesiologist showed up, I got an epidural. The epidural for some reason wasn't working right away. I don't know if like the medicine just didn't go in the right place or I don't know what was going on, but it took close to an hour and a half for the epidural to actually work. It did start working on one side first and not the other, and that was freaking me out. Then it finally did work on both sides, but one was a lot more numb than the other side, which ended up actually being kind of a joke because I had like a dead leg when I was like in pushing and all that. Anyways, I'll probably get to that in just a second. So I got the epidural, and after that, of course, anyone that has gotten an epidural knows that you just get like this just relief of like finally just, yeah, I'm gonna have a baby, and like not being like tense and in so much pain, and so it just gets exciting. This labor, I don't know if I mentioned this already or not, but this labor I was going for a VBAC, which means a vaginal birth after C-section. With my first, I had a C-section due to his heart rate dropping, so it wasn't anything that was wrong with me technically, and so my doctors and midwives and everybody were very confident that VBAC would be the best and safest thing for this labor, which is what I wanted anyway. So I was going for a VBAC. Everything was going perfect according to plan. I was progressing really well. Shortly after an epidural, I got checked and I was at 8 centimeters, and then very shortly after that I got checked again and I was at a 10, and it was time. So this was around 4:30 a.m. when I got checked, and I was at a 10. We were ready to push. I was really excited. So I started pushing probably around like 4:45 in the morning. I pushed and pushed and pushed. Ended up pushing for over 2 hours, and my beautiful baby boy made his entrance into the world at 7:17 a.m. And for 1 minute, it was complete and utter bliss and happiness. I completely forgot that anything hurt. During my pushing, my epidural started wearing off, and I didn't push the button on purpose because I wanted to have more feeling and more control. And towards the end of pushing, after two and a half-ish hours or maybe just under 2.5 hours of pushing, I was definitely in pain. I could feel every contraction. I was pushing with every contraction. I think that helped me actually push better. So baby was born. For that 1 minute, everything was just perfect and bliss and beautiful, and I had that awesome feeling of, yes, I did it. I pushed my baby out, and he's here, and everything's perfect. And of course, little did I know that 1 minute that everything wasn't perfect. I don't want to get emotional. So he was probably on my chest for about a minute, and nurses were coming in and rubbing him, checking on him and listening to his heart. And I thought that was just like what they did always. But then one of the nurses said to me that they had to move him over to the little newborn station because he needed a little bit of help. And I immediately know that there was something wrong. And so I started shaking and I asked what was wrong. And they were like, oh, he's breathing on his own. He just needs a little bit of help. He's breathing on his own, but he didn't take the big cries, so he just needs a little bit of help. But the more that they kept reassuring me that everything was okay, the more nurses and doctors that started coming in the room to like help him out. And then also like more nurses, and there was just a room packed full of people at this point. And I knew that there wasn't, or that there was something worse that I wasn't being told, or maybe that we didn't know about yet. So, turns out that his umbilical cord was freakishly short. Normally, umbilical cords are, actually I don't even know the normal size, but 20 to 30 inches, like that's pretty average. His was under 9 inches, I believe they told me. So it was very, very short. So short, in fact, that when I was pushing, he wasn't able to come out because he was attached, and the umbilical cord was attached to him and to the placenta, which was attached to me. So he was stuck for that whole time that I was pushing. So by the time that he did come out, his cord ripped, and that's how he was able to come out. So because of his cord ripping, he bled through his cord, and I bled through the cord as well. And so he was needing help because he had lost blood. Okay? When it gets hard. So they noticed right away that the cord had ripped, and they clamped it right away. So within that 1 minute that he was on me, the cord had been clamped, and they told me about it. My midwife said, you know how you wanted delayed cord clamping? Well, couldn't happen because his cord ripped. I'm like, really? That's crazy. And she's like, yeah, I've never seen it happening before. But of course, at that second, we didn't really think that much of it because it was just too soon to really had seen what was going on. So I don't know exactly how long after that they told me that they had to actually take him to the nursery because he needed more help. And at that point, they either didn't know or they hadn't told me really what was going on, other than he just needed help. And the nurses kept telling me that he was breathing on his own, and so I think that they thought that that would make me feel better. But I mean, at that moment, you just go through so many different thoughts. I had no idea what was going on, and just the fact that they were taking him away was freaking me out, and that there were so many people there. So I was crying. Everybody was trying to make me feel better. In the meantime, I was getting basically reconstructive surgery down there because his cord ripped. He kind of just like shot out of me, and so everything down there just exploded. So anyways, they took him away and told me shortly after that he was getting a chest x-ray, that he hadn't taken that big cry at the beginning, and most likely had some fluid in his lungs. So I thought that that's all that was going on. But turns out that while he was in the nursery, they video called the head of the NICU department in Portland at OHSU. And as soon as that guy saw him on video, he said that he immediately had to go up there. So they sent a Panda team, or the Panda team, which I guess is kind of the ambulance service for babies that need to go to the NICU. They sent him down to come and pick him up, and told me that they would come by and tell me when they were taking him, and that they would bring him in to see me before they took him up to OHSU. No, dropped your ducky. So the hospital was amazing, and they were able to get me transferred to OHSU as well, but I wasn't able to get transferred right away because I had lost a lot of blood. I lost blood through the cord, and I lost blood through my tears. And because I had lost so much blood during this whole time that they were checking on him and my surgery and all of that, I faded in and out of consciousness a lot because I was so weak. My poor husband was going in between our rooms, and he said that both of us looked right through him. Like, we were both looking at him, but like not actually at him. We just looked through him, and both of us were fading in and out of consciousness. And of course, it really freaked him out because he just, you know, he got to see us like half dead, basically.